Have you ever experienced a moment in life that felt too perfectly timed to be a coincidence? Maybe you kept hearing the same idea repeated by different people, in different places, almost as if the message was following you. Perhaps you met someone unexpectedly who gave you advice that changed the way you looked at a problem you had been struggling with for months. Or maybe you noticed that just when one opportunity disappeared, another path suddenly opened in a way you never anticipated. Many people have encountered moments like these. They often feel subtle, almost easy to overlook, yet something about them stands out. It might be a repeating coincidence, a conversation that arrives at exactly the right time, or a sudden sense of clarity that appears when everything previously felt uncertain. At first, these moments may seem random, but when they happen more than once, people begin to wonder if there might be something deeper behind them. There is a strange pattern in life that many individuals eventually notice. Sometimes a door closes without warning, a plan fails, a relationship ends, or a direction that once seemed certain suddenly disappears. In the moment, it can feel like a setback. Yet not long afterward, another opportunity appears. A different idea, a different path, or a different person enters the picture, leading life in a direction that might never have been discovered otherwise. These moments often create a feeling that life may be quietly guiding us in ways that are not immediately obvious. Some people move through these experiences without giving them much thought. They see them simply as coincidences and continue on their way. But others begin to pay closer attention. They start noticing patterns. They observe how certain themes seem to repeat themselves throughout their lives. They become curious about why particular opportunities appear at certain moments, or why certain people seem to enter their lives exactly when they are needed. This is where the idea of the chosen one often enters the conversation. Many believe that individuals who follow a deeper purpose in life eventually learn to recognize the subtle signals that appear along their path. These people do not necessarily see themselves as special in a dramatic sense. Instead, they develop a heightened awareness of the patterns that unfold around them. Rather than dismissing everything as pure randomness, they become more attentive to the details of their experiences. They begin listening more closely to their intuition. They reflect on the meaning behind the events they encounter. When something unusual repeats itself, they pause to ask why. When a particular opportunity appears unexpectedly, they consider whether it might be pointing them toward a direction they had not previously considered. Over time, this awareness becomes stronger. The more someone reflects on their experiences, the easier it becomes to recognize when something feels significant. Life begins to appear less like a collection of unrelated events and more like a series of interconnected moments that gradually reveal a larger picture. That does not mean every coincidence carries meaning, but for those who are attentive, certain patterns stand out clearly. Certain encounters feel purposeful. Certain opportunities seem to arrive at moments that feel almost impossible to predict. In this video, we're going to explore this idea more deeply. We'll look at how people who walk a purposeful path often learn to recognize the subtle signs that appear in their lives. We'll talk about why these signals tend to show up during important moments of change or uncertainty. And most importantly, we'll explore what happens when someone finds the courage to trust those signals and follow where they lead. Because sometimes, the biggest changes in life begin with something very small. A conversation, a coincidence, a sudden realization that shifts the way you see your path. And if this topic resonates with you, take a moment to support the channel by liking the video, sharing it with someone who might benefit from hearing this message, and subscribing for more content exploring purpose, personal growth, and the deeper patterns that shape our journeys. In many people's lives, signs rarely appear when everything feels predictable and stable. They tend to emerge during moments of uncertainty, when someone is standing at a crossroads and the future is not completely clear. These are the periods when one chapter of life is slowly closing, while another has not fully revealed itself yet. During such moments, individuals often become more aware of their surroundings, their thoughts, and the events unfolding around them. Uncertainty has a unique effect on the human mind. When life feels stable, people usually move forward on familiar routines without questioning the direction they are taking. Daily responsibilities and habits occupy their attention, leaving little room for reflection. However, when uncertainty enters the picture, those routines are disrupted. Plans change, expectations shift, and individuals begin to search for clarity. In that search, people naturally become more observant. They start noticing details that might have gone unnoticed before. This increased awareness is often the moment when subtle signs begin to stand out. Sometimes these signs appear in the form of repeating coincidences. A person may hear the same idea or message mentioned by different people in completely unrelated contexts. They might read about a certain topic, only to hear it again later in a conversation, or encounter it once more in an unexpected place. At first, it may seem like nothing more than coincidence. Yet when the same message appears several times in a short period, it can create the feeling that life is trying to draw attention to something important. In other situations, signs can appear through unexpected opportunities that arise after a previous plan collapses. Someone may invest time and effort into pursuing a particular direction, only to see it fail or disappear entirely. At the moment it happens, the experience can feel discouraging. But sometimes, soon after that door closes, another possibility appears that had never been considered before. A new opportunity, a different environment, or a new connection enters the picture, gradually opening a path that might never have been discovered otherwise. These transitions often create a sense that one event has quietly led to another. What once looked like a failure begins to look more like a turning point. The experience that initially seemed like an obstacle may actually have been clearing the way for a new direction to appear. Another common way signs appear is through intuition. There are moments when individuals feel a strong inner sense that a particular decision is right, even if they cannot immediately explain why. Logic may not fully support the choice, and others may not fully understand it. Yet the internal feeling remains persistent. It is not loud or dramatic, but it carries a sense of quiet certainty that is difficult to ignore. Intuition often develops through experience. As people move through life and encounter different situations, their minds gradually learn to recognize patterns that are not always obvious on the surface. These patterns can influence decisions in subtle ways. When intuition signals that a certain path deserves attention, it may be drawing on knowledge and observations that have accumulated over time. However, recognizing these signs requires a certain level of reflection. Individuals who regularly pause to think about their experiences are more likely to notice when patterns begin to form. Reflection creates space for people to examine the events of their lives and ask meaningful questions about them. Why did a certain opportunity appear at that moment? Why did a particular conversation have such a strong impact? Why does a certain idea keep returning in different forms? When someone begins asking these questions, they move beyond simply reacting to events. They start observing them. This shift in perspective allows them to see connections between experiences that might otherwise seem unrelated. People who reflect on their lives often develop a habit of noticing themes that repeat over time. Certain interests may appear again and again throughout different stages of their lives. Certain challenges may push them toward particular skills or insights. Certain types of people may repeatedly enter their lives, each offering lessons that build upon previous experiences. Over time, these recurring elements begin to form a pattern. The individual may realize that certain directions consistently attract their attention, even when they attempt to pursue something else. They may recognize that particular opportunities appear during moments when they are questioning their path. These patterns do not necessarily provide immediate answers, but they often provide clues about where their attention should be directed. It is important to understand that these signs are rarely dramatic. They do not usually appear as clear instructions or obvious messages. Instead, they tend to be quiet and subtle. A conversation that lingers in the mind long after it ends. A coincidence that feels strangely meaningful. A feeling that a particular idea deserves more attention than others. Because these signs are subtle, many people overlook them. In busy environments filled with constant distractions, it can be easy to ignore the quieter signals that life presents. Social expectations, routines, and external pressures often encourage people to move quickly without pausing to examine the deeper meaning of their experiences. Those who do notice these signs often share a common habit. They pay attention. They allow themselves time to think about the events that occur in their lives. They remain curious about the patterns that gradually appear over time. This curiosity encourages them to observe life more carefully. Instead of assuming that every event is completely random, they explore the possibility that certain experiences may be connected. They remain open to the idea that life sometimes guides people in ways that are not immediately obvious. Paying attention does not mean believing that every coincidence carries deep meaning. Rather, it means remaining aware of the experiences that stand out in unusual ways. It means noticing when certain ideas or opportunities return repeatedly. It means acknowledging when intuition draws attention toward a particular direction. As individuals become more attentive to these signals, their awareness grows stronger. They begin to distinguish between ordinary events and moments that feel more significant. This awareness does not make the future predictable, but it does provide guidance during uncertain periods. For someone navigating a major life transition, this guidance can become incredibly valuable. When the future feels unclear, even small hints can provide direction. A single conversation can introduce a new idea. A repeated coincidence can encourage someone to explore a topic more deeply. A strong intuitive feeling can inspire a decision that leads to unexpected opportunities. Over time, individuals who pay attention to these signs often discover that their lives contain more connections than they originally realized. Experiences that once seemed unrelated begin to form a coherent narrative. Challenges that once appeared random begin to reveal the lessons they provided. This perspective transforms the way uncertainty is experienced. Instead of viewing uncertain moments as purely chaotic or discouraging, individuals begin to see them as periods where important signals may appear. They learn that the moments when they feel most unsure about their direction are often the moments when life is quietly presenting new possibilities. In this sense, uncertainty becomes more than a temporary difficulty. It becomes an environment where awareness grows. When individuals remain attentive during these periods, they often discover clues that help them navigate the next stage of their journey. The key lesson here is simple but powerful. Signs are rarely loud, dramatic, or impossible to miss. They tend to appear quietly, woven into everyday experiences. Only those who slow down enough to observe their lives carefully are able to recognize them. For those who are willing to pay attention, uncertainty can reveal more than confusion. It can reveal direction. And sometimes, the smallest sign that appears during a moment of doubt can eventually lead someone toward a path they never expected to find. As individuals move further along their life journey, something interesting often begins to happen. Experiences that once seemed random slowly begin to reveal connections. Events that once appeared isolated start to form patterns. For people who are attentive to their lives, this shift in perception can change the way they understand their path. Instead of seeing life as a collection of unrelated moments, they begin to see it as a sequence of interconnected experiences that gradually shape direction and purpose. This ability to recognize patterns does not usually appear overnight. It develops gradually through observation, reflection, and lived experience. At first, someone may only notice occasional coincidences or unexpected opportunities. But as time passes and similar moments begin to repeat, those coincidences start to feel less random. A person may begin to recognize that certain themes appear again and again throughout different stages of their life. One of the most common patterns people notice involves opportunities that appear repeatedly around the same type of work or activity. Someone might try several different paths over the years, only to realize that certain kinds of opportunities keep returning. Perhaps they repeatedly find themselves drawn toward creative projects, helping others solve problems, teaching, building things, or exploring new ideas. Even if they initially pursue different directions, similar opportunities may continue appearing in ways that are difficult to ignore. Over time, this repetition becomes noticeable. It begins to suggest that certain abilities or interests may hold deeper significance. Instead of forcing themselves to follow paths that feel unnatural, individuals may start paying closer attention to the areas where opportunities consistently arise. The pattern itself becomes a signal that something about that direction aligns with their natural strengths or long-term purpose. Another pattern that often appears involves recurring interests. Many people discover that certain topics or fields capture their curiosity repeatedly throughout their lives. They may encounter the same ideas at different times and through different circumstances. A subject that fascinated them years ago may return later through a conversation, a book, or a new opportunity. At first, these moments might seem unrelated, but eventually the pattern becomes clear. When the same interests continue resurfacing, it often indicates that those ideas hold lasting importance for the individual. Curiosity has a way of guiding attention toward areas where growth and contribution are possible. When someone repeatedly feels drawn to the same subject, despite exploring other directions, it may be a sign that their deeper motivation lies there. Patterns can also appear through relationships and encounters with other people. Many individuals who reflect on their lives eventually notice that certain types of people enter their lives during critical moments. A mentor may appear when guidance is needed. A friend may offer encouragement during a period of doubt. A conversation with a stranger may introduce a perspective that changes how someone views their future. At first, these meetings may seem like simple chance encounters, but when someone looks back over time, they may notice how certain individuals appeared at precisely the moments when their influence was most meaningful. These people may not stay in someone's life forever, yet their presence during a specific moment can leave a lasting impact. Recognizing these patterns does not require believing that every event is guided by mysterious forces. In many cases, it is simply the result of paying attention to experience. The human mind naturally learns by identifying patterns in the environment. This ability allows people to recognize connections between events and draw conclusions from past experiences. When individuals regularly reflect on their lives, they strengthen this natural ability. Reflection helps them organize their memories and identify themes that may not have been obvious at the time events occurred. By reviewing past experiences, they begin to notice how certain moments influenced later decisions or opportunities. Reflection also helps individuals recognize how their own choices shape the patterns they experience. When someone consistently pursues activities that align with their interests, they naturally encounter more opportunities within that area. Over time, those opportunities appear as a recurring pattern, reinforcing the direction they have been exploring. This process is not mystical. It is a combination of awareness, curiosity, and accumulated experience. The more someone observes their own life carefully, the more clearly they begin to understand how different events connect with one another. Small details that once seemed insignificant start to reveal meaning when viewed within a larger timeline. Through this awareness, individuals gradually develop intuitive understanding. Intuition often emerges from recognizing patterns that the conscious mind cannot immediately explain. When someone has encountered similar situations many times before, their mind begins to sense familiar signals that indicate which direction may lead to positive outcomes. For example, a person who has repeatedly found fulfillment in certain types of work may feel a strong internal response when a similar opportunity appears again. Even if they cannot fully articulate why the opportunity feels important, their past experiences have already taught them that this direction tends to lead to growth or satisfaction. This intuitive response does not replace logical thinking. Instead, it complements it. People who develop strong pattern recognition often combine intuition with careful reasoning. They examine opportunities thoughtfully, but they also trust the signals that emerge from their accumulated experiences. Over time, this ability allows individuals to distinguish between ordinary coincidences and moments that genuinely deserve attention. Not every repeated event carries deeper meaning, but some patterns clearly indicate that something significant is unfolding. When a particular theme continues appearing across different contexts and time periods, it becomes difficult to dismiss it entirely as random chance. Learning to recognize these distinctions requires patience. Early in life, it can be difficult to separate meaningful patterns from simple coincidences. But as people accumulate more experiences, their understanding becomes more refined. They become better at noticing when an opportunity aligns with their long-standing interests, or when a repeated message deserves deeper consideration. This growing awareness leads to greater confidence in decision-making. When individuals recognize patterns in their lives, they gain insight into which directions have consistently produced meaningful experiences. Instead of feeling lost among countless possibilities, they begin to see which paths naturally align with their abilities and values. Confidence grows from this understanding. Decisions no longer feel entirely uncertain because they are informed by a history of experiences that reveal consistent patterns. Even when outcomes remain unpredictable, individuals can move forward knowing that their choices are grounded in self-knowledge and careful observation. Over time, this clarity becomes one of the most valuable tools for navigating life's complexity. Instead of reacting impulsively to every new opportunity, individuals can evaluate situations by asking whether they align with the patterns they have observed. If an opportunity resonates with their past experiences and interests, it may deserve serious consideration. If it feels disconnected from their established direction, they may choose to move forward cautiously. Through this process, life gradually becomes easier to interpret. Events that once seemed confusing begin to fit into a larger narrative. Past challenges reveal how they prepared someone for future opportunities. Conversations, decisions, and unexpected moments start to appear less like isolated incidents and more like pieces of a larger story. For those who develop this awareness, recognizing patterns becomes a powerful form of guidance. It does not eliminate uncertainty entirely, but it provides a framework for understanding how different experiences connect. By observing recurring themes and signals, individuals gain a clearer sense of direction. In the end, the ability to recognize patterns is not reserved for a special group of people. It is a skill that anyone can develop through attention and reflection. However, those who actively observe their lives often discover that the patterns guiding them have been present all along. Once they learn to recognize them, they begin to move forward with greater clarity, confidence, and purpose. Recognizing signs in life is an important step, but it is only the beginning of the journey. Awareness alone does not change a person's direction. The real transformation begins when someone decides to act on what they have noticed. This is where the process becomes more challenging, because following signs often requires courage. It is easy to observe patterns, coincidences, and intuitive signals while continuing to live exactly the same way as before. Many people experience moments where they sense that life may be guiding them toward a particular direction. They may feel drawn to a certain opportunity, inspired by a new idea, or encouraged by a conversation that sparks curiosity. Yet recognizing these signals does not automatically lead to change. The difficult step comes when a person must decide whether to respond to what they have seen. Signs rarely lead people toward paths that are completely safe or predictable. In fact, they often point toward decisions that involve uncertainty. A sign may suggest exploring a different career path, developing a talent that has long been ignored, or pursuing an opportunity that does not follow the expectations of others. It might encourage someone to leave a familiar environment, meet new people, or begin something that feels unfamiliar at first. Because of this, many people hesitate when they encounter these moments. Familiar routines provide a sense of stability. Even when someone feels dissatisfied with their current situation, the predictability of what they already know can feel more comfortable than stepping into the unknown. Acting on a sign may require leaving behind habits, relationships, or environments that have been part of life for years. This hesitation is natural. Human beings tend to prefer certainty over risk. The mind often searches for guarantees before making important decisions. People want to know exactly how things will unfold before they take a step forward. They want assurance that their efforts will succeed and that the path ahead will lead to the outcome they hope for. However, the reality of meaningful change is that certainty rarely arrives before action. In many cases, clarity emerges only after someone begins moving forward. Waiting for complete assurance can result in remaining stuck in the same place for years. Opportunities that once appeared as subtle signs may fade if they are ignored for too long. For individuals who learn to follow signs, an important shift occurs in how they approach uncertainty. Instead of expecting perfect clarity, they begin to trust their growing understanding of patterns and experiences. They recognize that while the future cannot be predicted with complete accuracy, their past observations provide valuable guidance. Trust in intuition becomes especially important during these moments. Intuition often arises from accumulated experience and subtle pattern recognition. When someone senses that a particular opportunity deserves attention, that feeling may be the result of many past observations coming together in a single moment of awareness. Of course, intuition does not replace careful thinking. People who follow signs responsibly still evaluate their decisions thoughtfully. They consider the practical consequences of their choices and remain aware of potential challenges. But rather than allowing fear to control their decisions, they combine reflection with courage. Taking action based on a sign does not always require dramatic or immediate change. Often it begins with small steps. Someone who feels drawn toward a certain interest might start by learning more about it. A person who senses that a new opportunity could be meaningful may begin by exploring it gradually. Small actions allow individuals to test new directions without abandoning stability entirely. These initial steps often reveal additional information that was not visible before. A conversation may introduce new connections. A project may lead to unexpected collaborations. A simple decision to explore an idea can open doors that were previously invisible. Once movement begins, the path ahead often becomes clearer. Courage grows through these small experiences. Each time someone follows a signal and discovers that it leads to new opportunities or insights, their confidence strengthens. They learn that uncertainty does not always lead to failure. In many cases, it leads to growth, learning, and discovery. At the same time, following signs does not guarantee that every decision will produce the desired outcome. Some paths may turn out to be temporary explorations rather than permanent directions. Yet even these experiences contribute valuable lessons. They help individuals refine their understanding of what truly aligns with their interests and values. What matters most is the willingness to engage with the signals that life presents. When someone consistently ignores their intuition or the patterns they observe, they may miss opportunities that could have led to meaningful change. Over time, this hesitation can create a sense that life is stagnant or disconnected from deeper purpose. By contrast, individuals who act on the signs they recognize gradually shape their lives through intentional choices. They do not rely solely on chance to determine their direction. Instead, they participate actively in their own development by responding to the signals they encounter. Another important aspect of courage is the willingness to move forward even when others do not fully understand the decision. When someone follows a path that is unconventional or unfamiliar, they may encounter skepticism from people around them. Friends or family members may question their choices because the direction does not fit typical expectations. In these moments, confidence in one's own judgment becomes essential. Individuals who follow meaningful signs often learn that not everyone will immediately recognize the value of the path they are exploring. Yet they also understand that their journey is personal. The patterns and signals they have observed are based on experiences that others may not fully see. Remaining respectful of others' perspectives while still trusting one's own direction requires emotional strength. It involves listening carefully to advice without allowing fear or doubt to override personal insight. This balance allows individuals to move forward thoughtfully while maintaining their independence. Over time, the courage to follow signs transforms subtle signals into real progress. What once appeared as a simple coincidence or intuitive feeling becomes the starting point for new experiences. Each decision builds upon the last, gradually shaping a path that reflects both awareness and intention. Looking back, many people eventually realize that the most meaningful chapters of their lives began with moments that required courage. A conversation that inspired them to try something new, an opportunity that appeared unexpectedly, a feeling that encouraged them to move in a direction that seemed uncertain at first. These moments often seemed small when they first appeared, yet the decision to act upon them created ripple effects that influenced everything that followed. New skills were developed, new relationships were formed, and new possibilities emerged that could never have been predicted at the beginning. This is why courage plays such an essential role in the process of following signs. Without action, signs remain nothing more than observations. They exist only as possibilities rather than realities. It is the decision to move forward that transforms those possibilities into tangible experiences. Ultimately, The purpose of recognizing signs is not simply to observe them, but to respond to them. Life often communicates direction through quiet signals that require attention and reflection. When someone is willing to listen carefully and act with thoughtful courage, those signals can lead them toward opportunities that align with their deeper potential. In this way, courage becomes the bridge between awareness and purpose. It transforms subtle guidance into meaningful movement, and through that movement, individuals gradually discover the paths that allow them to grow, contribute, and create a life that feels truly aligned with who they are. When we step back and look at the bigger picture of our lives, it becomes easier to understand that many experiences are not as random as they first appear. Moments that once seemed confusing or insignificant often reveal deeper meaning when viewed with reflection. Signs can emerge in many different forms, especially during periods when life feels uncertain or when we are standing at the edge of a transition. These moments may arrive as coincidences that repeat, unexpected encounters that shift our perspective, or sudden opportunities that appear just when we begin questioning our direction. During these times, people naturally become more attentive to the details around them. They begin to reflect more deeply on their experiences and the patterns that appear throughout their journey. For individuals who feel drawn toward a deeper sense of purpose, this awareness gradually becomes stronger. They learn to observe their lives with greater attention, noticing the connections between events that others might overlook. Observation, reflection, and intuition all play a role in this process. By reflecting on past experiences, individuals begin to see recurring themes in their lives. Certain opportunities may appear repeatedly, certain interests may return again and again, and certain people may enter their lives at moments when guidance or encouragement is needed most. Over time, these patterns form a kind of map that helps them understand their path more clearly. However, recognizing signs is only one part of the journey. Awareness alone does not change the direction of someone's life. The true transformation begins when individuals decide to trust what they have noticed and take action based on that understanding. This step requires courage, because the signals that guide us often lead toward unfamiliar territory. They may encourage us to explore new ideas, pursue opportunities that feel uncertain, or step beyond environments that once felt comfortable. Courage does not mean acting without thought or preparation. It means moving forward despite the fact that the entire path is not yet visible. Many meaningful experiences in life begin with small decisions that seem uncertain at first. A conversation leads to a new opportunity. A moment of curiosity leads to a new skill. A simple decision to follow a subtle signal leads to connections and experiences that could never have been predicted. Over time, these small steps accumulate. Each decision inspired by awareness and intuition gradually shapes a new direction. The opportunities that appear along the way may open doors that once seemed impossible to find. What began as a simple coincidence or quiet inner feeling can eventually become the starting point for growth, purpose, and transformation. If you have ever experienced moments in life that felt like meaningful coincidences, or situations that seem to guide you toward a particular direction, you are not alone. Many people discover that their most important decisions were influenced by small signals they almost ignored at first. By paying attention and responding with courage, those signals can become powerful guides on the journey toward a more purposeful life. And if this video gave you a new way of thinking about the signs that appear along your own path, take a moment to support the channel by liking the video, sharing it with someone who might benefit from hearing this message, and subscribing for more content exploring personal growth, life purpose, and the deeper patterns that shape our journeys.